give any of my money to a nation based on war.
Hey everyone, this is Tatiana Moroz with Bitcoin Magazine, and I'm here with my good friend David Weiss of SonicScoop.com. Thank you for joining me today, David.
Thanks, Tatiana.
Awesome. So, David is one of the very few people in the music industry that actually has an interest in Bitcoin. Now, it's growing, but it's still in its infancy. Why don't I give people at home a little background on how you got involved in music in the first place and writing for music?
Well, like a lot of people, I got involved with music as an instrumentalist, as a drummer, and I started playing when I was a kid, first piano, then cello, then drums, stuck with drums. Then after many years I played the computer. Now I do all those things, and then I also, but since what I'm actually talented at is writing, I became a journalist. I started to become part of doing marketing, PR, and branding for people who are involved with creating recording studios, designing audio equipment, and as well as post-production, that type of thing. Really gave me a big overview of the entire industry, not just what goes on stage, but also behind the scenes. And that led to me becoming New York editor of Mix Magazine for several years. Then I started Sonic Scoop because I didn't want to write just one column a month about recording in New York. I kind of wanted to do one a minute, and that's where we went. And so that's a very short way of putting how I got to where I am now.
So what is Sonic Scoop for people at home?
Sonic Scoop covers music and sound production in New York City and in LA and Nashville. It's really, we say it's got regional focus, global appeal, and we talk about, even though we zero in on studios and producers that are in a city, a place, a region, we like to show that it's happening somewhere, but the principles they're talking about are definitely universal. And on top of that, because I've co-authored a book on music supervision that's called Music Supervision, and you can go find that at musicsupervisioncentral.com. I got a good overview on licensing, publishing, management, all those types of things as well. So we incorporate that into Sonic Scoop. It's not just where to set your compression ratios. It's a great deal of other things, a lot of context about what's going on in the music industry.
Okay, so what, one of the things when you and I first became friends was your background in music supervision. I read your book actually, and I think some of the challenges that face the music industry are of course funding and getting things out there, how do you break through the mold and stuff like that. So how did you get interested in music supervision? How did you become an expert to write a book on that?
That's a good question. The short story is that I knew two music supervisors who were teaching music supervision. They were adjunct professors of it at NYU. They were trying to teach a course on it with a bunch of articles and stuff that they downloaded and put together, and they were like, there should be a book on this topic. And one of them knew me, and they said, Dave, we want to write a book on this topic. And I said it sounded like a great idea. And one thing led to another. Very shortly thereafter, got contacted by a publisher who wanted me to pitch some ideas. It was fresh off the presses, so we said, let's do it. And that's how it came together. And it was funny, before I started to write the book on music supervision and become immersed in it, I actually didn't even know what it was called. I thought it was maybe called soundtrack consulting. Don't know. But then I found out in short order, working with these two experts, how it worked. Ramsey Adams and Dave Nadek are my co-authors. Really knowledgeable people, both still active in the industry, and so that's how that came together. So I learned how licensing works. I learned how publishers, labels, artists all interact with content providers to make music supervision a really vital field, and that's constantly changing.
And you also have Song Hunters now too, right?
That's right, yeah, thank you, at thesonghunters.com.
Cool, yeah, we gotta get me set up on that.
We have a lot of URLs to flash down on the screen, but the Song Hunters was an offshoot of the music supervision book. We kept getting contacted on the one hand by artists who were hoping that we could be a part of getting their music placed in movies, TV, film, commercial, online entertainment. On the other hand, we kept hearing from music supervisors who wanted us to consult in some way, or producers, or people who weren't music supervisors at all, but needed one. The Song Hunters is a system for putting those two together, and I like to think it's a pretty unique business model that we've got for it. It's free for the music supervisor to use, but it's it still is a good way for us to. It makes us revenue, so we're happy. We get the artist placements, they make money, they're happy. It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Cool. So how do we bring it all back to Bitcoin? Like, I know that obviously we're friends, so I'm always evangelizing to everyone, but what made you kind of interested in it, and what do you like about Bitcoin?
Well, when you start talking to me about it a lot, that actually did get my attention first with Bitcoin. I get the Wall Street Journal, have it delivered in paper to my door every day, and I actually do recommend that to anybody, no matter what your field is. I tell them, get the Wall Street Journal, because if you can feel like you don't know what's going on in the world of business. Getting the Wall Street Journal, whether you subscribe to it online, I guess I'm slightly old school because I like to wake up and read it and go through it first thing before I start staring at a glowing screen. If you're reading the Wall Street Journal every day, you're not going to feel like you're in the dark about the world of finance, business, just part of something. It doesn't have to be the Wall Street Journal. It could be the New York Times, I suppose, if you want to depend on their business section. But I do recommend having a real authoritative resource come straight to your door that can keep you posted. You don't want to feel like you just don't know what's going on. So that's it. So I had been reading about Bitcoin, hadn't really understood too much of it, kind of let it, kept letting it slide. Then you started talking about it some more, and I started to delve into it. And what I saw was that this was something not unlike many of the things that happen in the music industry. I think I may not be completely objective, but I feel like a lot of firsts happen in the music industry, and especially in the last couple of decades. If you look back at the things that have happened as the media universe has expanded, a lot of firsts or leading edge or bleeding edge events have happened in music. Look at distribution, of course. How things went from physical media to MP3s to downloadable content, that type of thing. It happens first with music, or gets the public's attention first with music. I think just because it's a little lighter than video, maybe looking back at the Walkman and how that was something that people could carry around with them first. So when formats change, that happens in music. Look at crowdfunding, for example, too. Maybe other things were crowdfunded on Kickstarter before music projects, but what really got people's attention was when albums and artists started using Kickstarter and getting alternative ways to fund things as well. Then Bitcoin is, and another thing is communication, social media. MySpace really grew when that was a big thing, grew on the backs of bands and artists. Once again, we're the ones who were able to use it to the hilt most often, and as a way of allowing artists to promote themselves, promote their projects. Social media was big for them. Artists, musicians, music was an early adopter there. So I think that Bitcoin is definitely going to be part of that wave as well. People are going to start getting interested in it more when music is poised to become among the early adopters for Bitcoin. If and when it does that, it's going to get people's attention in a hurry when they can start paying for their music with Bitcoin, which you can do now with some bands.
Right, it's not really mainstream yet.
No, it's not at all. But as music starts to adopt it more, it's going to. There's no reason why it's not going to explode into the mainstream on the back of the music industry like so many other things, like distribution, like crowdfunding, like social media.
Right. Well, if you talk about crowdfunding, that's what we're doing with Tatiana Coin. David's writing an article for Sonic Scoop. We've actually been talking a little bit about sharing some content, so we have some Sonic Scoop articles on Bitcoin Magazine and some, and vice versa, I guess. So we're going to do something about Tatiana Coin, but what I liked about it was it took that Kickstarter model and it made it more of a long-term relationship with your fans. And it's also a way of keeping track of what your fans want from you. As technology changes and people go from platform to platform, okay, one day it's MySpace, then it's Facebook, then it's YouTube, I think that the coin will keep people with you for the long run. And I think that that'll be kind of interesting to see how it's taken advantage of in this space.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any words of wisdom for people that want to get involved in music, be it as an engineer or you know, a music supervisor, an artist? Do you have any like thoughts? It could be a little bit difficult these days. So what do you think it takes in order to make somebody successful?
Well, that's a huge question, and I get asked that all the time. To me, what it always comes down to, if you're on the artist side and you want to be successful, I always say make songs, make music that you're making it because you're the one because you've got to hear it. You know, don't make it because you think it's going to be a hit, because you think Ford is going to buy it to sync for their next commercial, or because it's going to be perfect in the soundtrack for the next Sofia Coppola movie or anything like that. Great music, relevant music happens because you got to hear this song. No one else has made it, so all right, you're the one who's got to do it. So start from that perspective. And if it's not authentic, music supervisors, advertising execs, producers, directors, they can all smell it. They're not going to be interested. So first off, if you're making music, start from the heart. If you want to be involved professionally, you know, you're going to have to find your way. It can be just as difficult as being an artist today. I think I hear from people through the music supervision website, especially all the time, write to me, I want to be involved in music supervision. What I always say to them is don't put yourself in a position where you have to ask for permission, where you're writing to people saying, can I have a job with you? You know, will you hire me? Will you look at my resume? Most likely you know someone who's in the same boat as you. Form a collective, start creating your own content any way you can. Do something that's good enough that's going to break through, because that's how other people have breakthroughs. Don't not try and hook on with a big organization. Big organizations have talented people, and and they have finances and clout. But don't just mail your resume out all day. See what you can get going by yourself. I know it's easier said than done, but that's still my advice.
All right, great. Well, thank you very much for talking with me today. I look forward to having, you know, mutually directed stuff so we could interact more music and Bitcoin and technology. Where can people find you and how can they catch up?
Okay, well, thanks for asking, Tatiana. You can find me at www.sonicscoop.com, www.musicsupervisioncentral.com, and www.thesonghunters.com. Some other URLs too, but you know, we have short attention spans. I don't really want to tax you. Visit me there, and I want to say thank you for getting the word out about Bitcoin. I think that it's part of something that musicians need to understand. People just need to dive in. Don't be scared. I think that's what you're trying to get out there. It's not that much more complicated than setting up a PayPal account, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, thank you for being on the wave.
All right, thanks very much.
Yep.